wasn't right. It was so wrong. It was so twisted. But they had been, at that point, they had been conditioned to believe that what they were going. I just finished my first book for the week, and that was Sex Cult Nun. And I'm actually on my way to work. I'm behind. My child is having some issues adjusting to her new classroom. I'm not sure what it is. It could just be that it's a new classroom, and some of the other kids that were in her class are not moving with her just yet. I'm not sure why they're holding them back, but they went ahead and pushed her forward, and she's having a little bit of a difficult time adjusting. But yeah, I just finished Sex Cult Nun, and the first half of that book is extremely difficult to listen to or read, however you consume it, because it focuses on the cult, like the family, and they are very heavily like a sex-based organization. They believe that sex is love, and so there is no inhibitions when it comes to sex, and that includes minors. So there is a lot of content warnings for very descriptive underage sex and sexual abuse of children that made me so uncomfortable that there were a couple times that I had maybe considered DNFing, because it was just a lot. I mean, hearing about parents sexually abusing their own kids, hearing about how like kids as young as 20 months were being sexually abused, and keeping all this stuff documented because they thought it was interesting and that it was for the benefit of the cult. And it was sick. It was sick. And so I look at the light, the sun. The sun is killing me this morning. I thought that it was just, the whole situation was just extremely sick. It was hard to make it through that first half. And then we kind of transition into more of a narrative about Faith working her way out of the cult as she gets older, and doing a lot of mission work across the world, from being in China, being forced to be in Japan, doing mission work in Russia, Kazakhstan. She was all over the globe, and I didn't realize how far spread the family was in terms of cults. It was far reaching in all corners of the globe. And that part, I guess, was interesting. The difficulty that I had with Sex Cult Nun, I'm just gonna get it off the top here. Faith is not a good writer. And so the second half, or even I would say, I'll give her even the last quarter of the book, is very much so the technical aspects of being in a cult and how that messes with someone psychologically, emotionally, developmentally, etc. It read very much so like a textbook and was quite dry. Not gonna even lie. It was not the best. And so I'm not sure if that detachment, because you could tell that she's detached, I'm not sure if that detachment came from having to revisit this trauma, and so she's emotionally, you could tell from the writing that she's emotionally detached from what she's talking about. And that makes it a little, not saying that I want her to be, because I want to make sure I clarify this, I don't want her to be re-traumatized, but she is so detached from it, it just read very cut and dry. And so that may not be something that people are actively looking for in a book about someone's emotional journey breaking away from a cult. Another part of it is that she is fat phobic. I've seen some people also say she's xenophobic. I definitely, personally, I felt like she was fat phobic in one of the parts, and it was kind of brushed over because she was talking about how she was forced to be with this guy, like they were forced to date, and he was forced to propose to her and possibly marry her and all this and whatever the case may be. And like she was saying, like he was fat and just like she was not attracted to him. and that she tried to encourage him to lose weight, and he didn't lose weight. And so he comes back years later and ends up in a situation where he tells her, like, your comments and the way you treated me led me to having an eating disorder. He got strung out on drugs. And so, like, and it was kind of just brushed over. And I'm like, girl, like, you led this man to start an eating disorder because you were so fat phobic, because you kept pushing him to try to lose weight, and he wasn't, like, you were making him extremely uncomfortable in the skin. And I feel like, as someone who's just been through so much trauma, like, she just didn't handle that. Like, I think in hindsight, I would say, like, you know, like, that it was wrong of me to do that. Like, if you're not attracted to somebody, you're not attracted to somebody, but it doesn't mean you have to body shame somebody because you're not attracted to them. Like, literally just went through this situation my damn self. And so to kind of see her do that, I was like, yo, like, you don't have to body shame someone if you're not attracted to them. Just, I'm not attracted to them, and you keep it at that. But to be like, he's fat, you tried to encourage him to lose weight, and then this man ends up with an eating disorder, and you're kind of like blasé about the fact that he ended up with an eating disorder, just didn't sit well with me at all. I just was not anticipating that whatsoever. I think learning about the cult was interesting, especially because this cult focused heavily on the manipulation of women and putting them into positions where they would be sexually assaulted and raped, and they just had no choice for the betterment of, or for the sexual satisfaction of the men that were a part of this cult. And so that part of it was actually extremely disturbing. And I can tell how they were just conditioned to believe that everything that was happening in the context of this cult was right. And it wasn't right. It was so wrong. It was so twisted. But they had been, at that point, they had been conditioned to believe that what they were going through was right, and that nothing was wrong about it, and that they needed to use flirting and sexual promiscuity in order to lure other men into the family. It was a lot. It was a lot, all at the detriment of women, and how when you weren't complying, you can get excommunicated and taken away from your children. It is a disgusting and twisted whole type of scenario. They would have these things called the Mo letters that they would send out, where it would keep them updated on things that they should and should not be doing. And it would, I mean, the sexual deviancy that would happen because of the Mo letters, like, oh, you know, this is what age kids can start having sex. Like, I'm like, no. They would put kids in a room and tell them to have sex with each other, and if you ended up pregnant, it's God's will. It's not a bad thing. I just have so many thoughts. I'm going to continue to share a little bit of my thoughts, but I'm at work now and I gotta go. But I will check in with y'all later and let y'all know, because I literally just finished the book, and so my spirit is kind of like, yikes. It's yikes. But yeah, I'll check in later. Hey y'all, I have not done a check-in since I did my last check-in. This has been a very, very busy week, but it's also been a week where I've been pretty much reading everything in sight. Don't know why, but I've been reading a lot. I think today is the 7th of October, and I've read 10 things so far this month, so there's that. But I just wanted to hop in really quick and say that I'm going to sit down and do a proper check-in and tell you everything that I've been reading and do reviews of everything that I've been reading. But I just wanted to pop in and say that, yeah, it's probably going to be one of the shorter weekly reading vlogs because of that. But yeah, we'll check in. Toodles. just talk about the fact that this vlog is a hot ass mess. I don't know what's going on. It's been a good couple of weeks. I've been so busy, y'all. I just have not been able to check in. And I know I still have some books that I need to review, but without me sitting down in front of a laptop with my Goodreads stuff pulled up, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be reviewing. I was supposed to take care of this stuff last night. However, my child threw my phone into the tub last night. And so with that being said, you know, that was fun. That was excellent. Love that for me. But I do have an iPhone, so they are pretty good at being water resistant. And I only was in the tub for like a good 5 seconds, and the tub only had like an inch of water in it. But your girl panicked and freaked out last night because I was like, damn, you know, I really cannot be paying for a new phone right now, because the way that this economy is working, ain't nobody got no money like that. Not when groceries cost an arm, leg, and a damn kidney. But I just wanted to do a really quick update to let y'all know what I'm currently reading, and possibly pull this vlog together, possibly pull it together so that I could just, you know, I could live my life. And I was thinking about putting it up this Sunday, but honestly, what I'm probably gonna end up doing is I may just make this an October reading vlog and just call it a day, and I may switch to doing a month long. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I like doing my little recent read videos because I think, you know, they bring me joy. They bring me joy. I don't know what they do for everybody else, but they bring me joy. But I am currently listening to well, That Was Unexpected, which is a new YA title from Jessie Q Satanto. I always feel like I mess her name up. This is the same author of Doll A for Auntie, and I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. It's two main characters who end up, what are they? They both are exploring their sexuality. They both get caught by their parents. And so with our heroine, her mom decides to take her to Indonesia, which is where her mother is from. She's half white, half Indonesian, the main character is. And so her mother takes her there to kind of get away from the US, get her to know a little bit more about her roots and her heritage. And then we follow another main character. His name is George. I don't know, I remember his name, but oh, her name is Shar. Her name is Shar, his name is George. And George already lives in Indonesia. Their parents want them to find nice partners, and so they both get on dating apps for their kids, and their parents end up talking to each other. And so the two of them have these preconceived notions of each other, but they don't really know each other because it's their parents' personality. It's really interesting. It's funny, but they end up fake dating because George's family is pretty famous and they have some significant wealth. So they end up actually building a friendship and getting rather close. And because they end up going to, there's an event that they have to do in Bali, so they end up going to Bali together and really getting to know each other. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's good. I think it's good. The other book that I ended up finishing before this was Omega Morales and the Legend of, oh gosh, I don't want to screw this up, y'all. I don't want to screw this up. So I'm gonna talk about that one a little later, but I ended up finishing that one. What I'm trying to do is see if I can do an audiobook a day for the rest of October, which would be about 14 audiobooks. I am already behind, but I only have about an hour 15 left of this one, and the next audiobook that I plan to listen to is a Kwame Alexander audiobook. So an update for Black Aweenathon. I have not been updating for Black Aweenathon, but I've been reading for Black Aweenathon. I have finished 2 books for Black Aweenathon. I finished that graphic novel by I never get her first name right. I'm just gonna not do it. I'm not gonna do it because I always stumble over it. But I talked about that one already. I also ended up, what else did I finish? I ended up finishing The Girl Who Never Speaks. That was also for Black Aweenathon. And I am currently reading They Never Tell by Shay Sanders for Black Aweenathon. And now I think about it, I don't know if her name is Shay Sanders or Shay Saunders. Should probably figure that out. But they never tell us messy. It's super fucking messy. Very much so like her to do something that messy where our main characters are they're just nobody's really good peoples. Nobody's really great, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine that nobody is really good peoples. But it's about these group of kids. They're 12 elite black students in this town, kind of in the outskirts of Atlanta, but still kind of considered Atlanta. And their parents have tried to make sure that they were the best of the best, kind of in the same vein as W.E.B. Du Bois' Talented Tenth type of situation. And they've been doing this for a while. The summer before their senior years, they all meet for this party, and one of the 12 of them ends up dying, which is ruled at first as a suicide, but turns out that it gets overturned and becomes a homicide. And so we're getting a multiple perspectives from a lot of different characters, trying to figure out who possibly could have killed this girl. And honestly, honey, I feel like all of them could have done it, because all of them have had issues with her. All of them have something to hide. It's definitely tackling some interesting things. I think it's gonna touch a little bit on sexual assault, to be honest with you. There is some grooming that has happened, so I would take that as a content warning with one of our main characters and a teacher, and that made me uncomfortable. But I think it's gonna feed into the narrative of who would have a grudge against Nylia, who was the young lady who died. So I'm about 50% into that one. I think I'm gonna try to finish another 25% of that during my lunch break today. I think this morning before I have a meeting, I can finish, or I'm gonna try to finish Well, That Was Unexpected, and then I'll jump into Kwame Alexander's audiobook for the rest of the day and see where that takes me. But I'll check in later, y'all. Y'all, I don't know what I have going on. I am in a very weird headspace right now, and I can't pinpoint what it is. Like, I just filmed a video for tomorrow, and it just felt really draining to do it. I don't know what's going on with me right now. I feel like I kind of know what's going on with me right now, but it's been tough. So I wanted to come on here quickly and do an update, and also do a quick haul. I have some stuff that I need to show y'all. I have realized that my first Around the World Reading Challenge is not going to be up by the end of this month. It'll probably be up by the end of next month, because honestly, it's taking me a lot more time than I anticipated. I have a lot more going on recently than anticipated. I'm tired. I am tired. So, all right. So the first thing I want to show you is let's do a thumbnail shot really quick. So I got Flora On sent me an arc of the new book that they have coming out through Quirk Books, which is a middle grade book where it says When You Reach Me meets Love, Sugar Magic, and this unforgettable middle grade novel where time travel, Korean family recipes, and family secrets collide. So that's this one. I'm really excited for that one. It seems like it's going to be really, really cute. I'm a foodie, so I love food based, and this one includes recipes. Oh, that is so cute. I love that. I didn't know that it included recipes. So the author reached out to me and asked me if I would mind reading it and reviewing it, and I said absolutely. And this is great. I'm excited for that. I didn't know it included recipes. That is fun. That is super, super fun. Okay, and then I got the second book that I'm going to be reading for my Around the World Reading Challenge, and that is I, the Supreme by Augusto Roja Bastos. This is for the country Paraguay, and this is also a reason why I know I'm not going to finish my reading challenge by the end of the month, because this book is incredibly thick, and it has footnotes at the bottom, and the text is extremely small. And this is translated from Spanish, and it is based on the career of the man who was elected the supreme dictator for life in Paraguay in 1814. I've heard very, very interesting things about this book. It is one of the most well-known books in terms of translations out of Paraguay, so that's fun. Trying to see what else I have around me and behind me, and I've kind of just been letting this stuff build up because I just have been having the time of my life. This is not something for me to hold. That is my passport. I also was reached out to by a comic or graphic novel publisher, and they asked me if I would like to receive some stuff, and I said absolutely. And so they sent me a box full of things, which I'm excited to read said box of things. I did not realize that I believe that they are an imprint of Penguin Random House. I did not know that. So they ended up sending me Hilda and the Troll, which I've heard of, by Luke Pearson, and then also Hilda and the Midnight Giant. So they sent me both of these. These are really thin, floppy graphic novels that I believe are children's graphic novels, and I know that a lot of people enjoy them. This is blurred by Raina Telgemeier, who is one of my favorite middle grade graphic novel artists and writers. They also sent me Gaimayan, Gaimayan Tales 1 and Gaimayan Tales 2 by Alexander Utkin. This is an anthology of modern Russian folk tales. So these are really, really pretty. These are just gorgeous. I absolutely think that these are really, really gorgeous. And each one is just a short story, essentially. So they have so they just have a list of characters in the beginning, and then they do short stories for each one, which I'm not familiar with Russian folk tales at all, so that's really interesting. I also ended up getting Akisi Tales of Mischief, Akisi More Tales of Mischief, and Akisi Even More Tales of Mischief. So I have actually read from Abuye. I believe that's how you say their last name. They did the Aya graphic novel series, which takes place in the Ivory Coast. And I remember when this series originally came out, at least when the first one came out, which is Akisi Tales of Mischief. And then I did not realize that there was more Tales of Mischief, and then also even more Tales of Mischief. So I was super excited to get these and finally be able to read these. I love the artwork, the art style. This is very reminiscent of my read of Aya, which is one of my favorite graphic novel series. Let's see what else we have here behind me. So I got sent this by Sourcebooks Fire. It actually came in this thing right here, which I actually took loose because I was like, what is this? Because it says, tell me what really happened. Where is Maylee Hayes? And I was like, is that the name of the book? And then I got confused. So the actual name of the book is Tell Me What Really Happened. This is by Chelsea Sadati, which is the author of 100 Lies of Lizzie Lovett and As You Wish, which I've never read either one of those. This does not come out until April of next year, and it appears to be a YA mystery slash thriller, and it is told in very brief perspectives. I've never seen anything like this. I wonder if this is more of a... Oh, this is a transcript. So this is basically, looks like a transcript from the police, and they're all giving their interviews, and that's how it's told. I bet you if they get someone to produce this audiobook, I promise you this audiobook is finna be fire. I'm telling you, because usually when they do stuff like that, it ends up being like really, really good. And so I'm still gonna read it beforehand, but dang, I wish I had the audiobook now. Okay, then I have some other stuff, which who knows what is what. Okay, so I do have, okay, I got these for myself. These are see-through sticky notes, which are, I need these because I have been finding that in my annotations lately, I have been reading or writing more than the space that I have. And instead of using sticky notes that cover the text, I got these sticky notes, which let me see if I can show you an example of one. I didn't want to take all of them out, but it's one of the situations where it is what it is. So it's one of these sticky notes that's kind of like translucent. So you can write on top of it and you can still see the text. Like you can still see my hand. You can still see the text when you put this over it, which is something that I felt like, okay, I kind of needed that. I think this is a great option too for people who are still super hesitant about writing in their books, because I get it. Especially people that I work with are like, how and why do you write in your books? Because they're mine. And I like to annotate them in color code and take notes. And so I think these are a great option for people who just can't bring themselves to do it. So I did get those. Let's see what's in this. Okay, so I bought a copy of Fire in His Fingertips volume number 2. This was out of print for the longest time, and it was impossible to get it, and it was super expensive to get it. And I was finally able to get my hands on a copy for retail price, not paying the absurd amount that people were asking for this, and it finally came in. So there's that. Excited for that one. I know what this is, so I've looked through all this stuff. It's not like it's a surprise. I just can't remember what's in what. I also picked up Blood on the Tracks Volume 9, Blood on the Tracks Volume 10, and Volume 11 because, listen, I kind of low-key just got tired of waiting on my library. I've read Volumes 1 through 8 through my library, but that's because I went through and kind of consumed the entire first 8 volumes very, very quickly. But these are the latest published ones. We are getting these, I think, every couple of months. I think Volume 12 should be out in December. Not December, maybe next month. Either way, we get volume 12 before the year ends, but I just got tired of waiting for the shipment to come in, and I was like, I'm just going to start collecting the series. The first 13 volumes of this anyway are just a prelude, and so it's high time that I need to start collecting it anyway, because I'm really enjoying the series. The only downside about these is that, like, they are like $13 a volume, but there's no but. They're $13 a volume. They read so quick though, because it's very art focused and it's not text heavy. So you can read this in 30 minutes, and it sucks that you can read it so quick. But okay, so I got this box of stuff from Sourcebooks. Is this from Sourcebooks? I think this may be. I can't tell y'all who this is from. Who's this from? Yeah, Sourcebooks sent me this as well, which I'm guessing is a box full of thrillers. I'm not going to open that here because I'm going to unbox that for my Instagram. So I probably will come back and show y'all after I unbox it. This is the other volume of Fire in His Fingertips. This is volume number 3, which I thought I would go ahead and get that. Probably in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll probably go ahead and get volume 4 because it's out. I went ahead also and got myself some more tabs because rereading Amari has used up all my tabs. I have no tabs left. Are we surprised? We should not be surprised. I already opened this, but I got this one for Black Aweenathon. I plan on reading this either next week or this week. And that is The Dark 30, Southern Tales of the Supernatural. I talked about this in my October reading plans. I do plan on reading this for Black Aweenathon. I am on my 3rd book for Black Aweenathon, which is good. I wanted to read at least 4 because, you know, that was my goal, to read at least 4. And that's what I'm going to do, is read at least 4. Okay. This is something that I got myself from Pango. It's Love Boat Reunion by Abigail Hing-Wen. I already read this. I read this. Was this year? Yeah, I read this year. I have read Love Boat Taipei, which is the first book in this duology, 4 times. I've only read this one once, but I was like, I finally just need to go ahead and get this one because it'll complete my duology, and I've read them both, and I plan on rereading it, and I plan on rereading Love Boat Taipei and annotating it because I really enjoy that book. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody doesn't like it, but I enjoy it. I also received a copy of Undercover Latina by Aya de Leon, and this was sent to me by Candlewick Press sent me this. So this is a fairly new release, and it's a middle grade kind of like spy type of thing, but she goes undercover to take down a white supremacist. So that's Undercover Latina. And then I may or may not have went on a little bit of a spree on in-stock trades. I am trying to save my money for Right Stuff's Black Friday sale, but I also went ahead and got some stuff that I wanted from InStock. And so I picked up, I love how InStock like wraps your stuff. And then I'm like, I don't want to take this stuff out. I don't want to do that. But I did get Catch These Hands Volume 1, Kaguya-sama Love is War Volume 2, which is, it's a thick one. That baby is thick. And then Demon Slayer Volume 2. I'm super excited about Catch These Hands because I've heard great things, but these are the spines. I really don't want to take them out. I also got Yakuza Lover Volume 2, and then I got Crazy Food Truck Volume 1, Perfect World Volume 3, and Alice in Borderland Volume 1. So that's this bind up. And then the last 3 that I got here were Blue Lock, Beauty and the Beast of Paradise Lost, and Night of the Ice Volume 2. And so I was thinking of, for my final video for the comic book channel this week, I wanted to do a first impressions video. So I'm thinking about, I don't know which one I want to try. Like, I could try Catch These Hands, but I also have some manga and stuff that I checked out from the library. Y'all, I'm a mess. I'm a complete and total and utter mess. But it's fine. It's fine. I also got these 2 lovely boxes from Novel Wicks. They reached out to me and asked me if I would like to receive some of their candles. And what do you think I said? Yes. Okay, so I have a code that y'all can use. You can use Happy Fall, y'all, for 15% off. And the first 3 that I received were A Christmas Carol, which is Sticky Bun Ginger and Sweet Vanilla, Fall TBR, which is Candy Apples, and then this one is Hocus Pocus, which is Cranberry and Mandarin Oranges. Oh my god, it smells so good. It's so pretty. I love candles, y'all. I'm candle obsessed. Oh yes, oh yes, sticky bun. It makes me want something sweet. I have sugar-free ice pops, which is gonna be my go-to. Oh, and candied apples. That smells so good. Okay, I'm gonna unbox the other one. I'm gonna probably end up posting. I'm gonna end up posting these on my Instagram as well. So this is the other two that she sent me, which she sent me like all 3 sizes, which is so cool. Like, that's funny. Okay, so the next one that I have is Brunch and Browsing Books, which is Dulce de Leche. And it definitely smells like it. Oh, smells like good freaking coffee. That's what that one smells like. And then Edward with an apple. So I'm only guessing that that is a reference to Twilight. But it smells so good. It smells like some type of like lotion that I used to use from Bath and Body Works as a kid. Oh my god, it smells so great. Oh, and I got glitter all over myself because these have like glitter in them and they're really, really pretty. Okay, I'm getting glitter all over the place. All right, so you can use Novelwix. The code is Happy Fall, y'all. You can use that for 15% off, which I highly, highly recommend. I am going to make sure I do post that stuff to Insta. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what I'm currently reading. So let me pull up my Goodreads because that's what's important here, right? I knew I was in a rush because I was doing sprints and I was like, oh, I need to hurry up and finish. And then this morning I was also in another rush where like I just have not had the time to sit down and really film any updates because I really have genuinely just been that busy. So one book that I know I haven't talked about because it would have taken me forever and a month of Sundays to talk about this one, so I know that I haven't talked about it just yet, and that is the Davenports. So I did end up finishing the Davenports this month. I gave it 3 stars. It's by Crystal Marquis. This doesn't come out until January of next year. I was not a huge fan of this one. I am going to give it 3 stars. I think that I went into this one expecting something that I didn't end up getting. And what I didn't end up getting out of this one was the historical aspects that I think I was looking for. I was looking for more of a historical fiction than a historical romance. And so this one ended up being more so on the historical romance side than anything, which is not what I went in expecting, because we don't really have any YA books out there that cover, you know, all black families at the turn of the 20th century in Chicago with wealth. And so I was definitely looking for that because it's based off of the C.R. Patterson family. But what it does more so is focus on the relationships of our main characters. This is definitely going to be a first in a duology or series, possibly. We follow 4 alternating perspectives. 2 are from perspectives of sisters Olivia and Helen, and then we have Amy Rose, who works as their servant essentially, and then we have Ruby, who is best friends with Olivia. And so the only character that we really get to see the historical like aspects, turn of this century, them having wealth, and what does that mean for their other black counterparts. And this is when Jim Crow was starting to rear its ugly head. Like, it's only seen through her perspective, and I was hoping that we were going to get this through more people's perspectives, but we really don't. Helen is the one where we see like the battle of gender roles, and then Amy Rose is kind of where we see a little bit of class issues discussed, but not really everything for me, let's put it this way. And then Ruby was kind of the issue of acquiring wealth but maintaining that wealth, the image of wealth. And I guess my whole issue with it is that everything felt very surface level, and I was looking for a more in-depth analysis of our characters going through whatever issues they would have been forced to face during this time in history. I think that we just kind of touched on them and didn't really do a deep dive the way I was anticipating doing a deep dive. And the romance aspect of it was really, really messy, which I think people are going to enjoy that. It is I don't know, it felt like it was a daggone octagon type of situation, because everyone has a partner, but their partner that they originally start with is not the partner that they end up with, because people have feelings for people that don't have feelings for them. And it's a whole lot of mess, and it doesn't end in a way that guarantees anything for anyone. It pretty much does end on a cliffhanger, so I'm anticipating that we are going to see a second book from Crystal possibly in 2024. It took me a long time to read this one. It took me like over a month to read it, because it didn't hold my interest the way that I anticipated it holding my interest. So, but I mean, it was still a solid story with solid writing, which is why I'm leaning towards the 3-star review as opposed to 3.5 or higher, because it just didn't tackle what I thought it was going to tackle, and it leaned more on the romance and the historical. I think, honestly, like, being completely transparent with you, if you go into this and you are looking for a historical romance that has a full black cast, you're probably going to enjoy this a lot more than I did. If you go into this looking for a historical fiction with a touch of romance, then you're gonna probably be disappointed like I was, to just being fully honest and transparent about that. So I also ended up finishing so far this month Do You Take This Man by Denise Williams. To me, honestly, hold on, because my timer on this clip is about to run out. I honestly did not, this is one of Denise Williams' weakest books. I have read 2 of her other published books, and this one is it's definitely her weakest. It is about an officiate and a wedding planner, or he works with a wedding planner, and they end up meeting, and it's supposed to be kind of a hate to love type of situation. They don't really get along with each other, and then they start being friends with benefits, and it leads to more. But I was not invested in either one of the characters whatsoever. I didn't care for their character development. I didn't feel like I don't feel like anything happened. It was boring, which is so unlike Denise Williams. And I think because a lot of her books, which that's not to say that the book didn't have any deeper aspects of it, because it definitely did. There were some hard-hitting components about it, but I think that Denise Williams has done a better job about weaving in those hard-hitting components and really making readers connect with the characters and the situations that they're in. Whereas in this one, once again, I've been struggling a lot with books that are kind of like surface level, don't really have a lot to them, and this one definitely felt like that. Like, even the banter and the back and forth between them, it just wasn't enough to pull me in. I don't know, y'all. This one just wasn't, it just didn't do it for me. I just did not like, the sex scenes were great, but as far as the emotional connection between the characters, it wasn't there for me. So I haven't written my review for that one yet, but I think I'm going to go ahead and give that one 3 stars. And then see, I have a lot to catch all up on. It's just so much that I have been reading. I also ended up reading The Vicious Vet, which is the second book in the Agatha Raisin series. I'm just slowly like making my way through the series. This one is about Agatha doing some dating, which is just, it's like it's very interesting. It's funny. If you like dry English humor, you're gonna like the Agatha Raisin series. She's kind of getting bamboozled by someone who's pretending to be interested. Guy accidentally kills himself, and then she is investigating this with another guy that she finds attractive. It's not like, I wouldn't go in looking for like the best literary work on the planet. I just think that they're fun reads. I think Agatha is a funny character, and I like that we got to see a little bit more of her understanding how much being in this small town has changed her and how much she enjoys being in this small town, because she's used to being in the city and everything being fast paced. And so in the small town, things have like slowed down. This one was definitely messy. I can see why people enjoy the messiness of these, the connections between people and who was dealing with who and possibly sleeping with who. It was a messy book, but I did enjoy it. And that one is definitely going to get like another 4-star review for me. Like I definitely see it getting another 4-star review for me. Let's see what else I ended up reading. Okay. So I did end up reading The Inheritance Games, which is the first book in The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I do not plan on continuing with this series, which you will know because the video about series that I don't plan to continue will go up before this one. I just did not enjoy it, y'all. It is about a young girl who ends up finding out that she's inherited all this money from this family that she knows nothing about. This guy specifically wrote in his will that she is supposed to receive all this money, but there is kind of like a catch to like how she acquires the money, and it's supposed to be these riddles and games in which she's supposed to figure out like how is she connected to this family and why did she basically inherit everything. And she's supposed to live in this estate for a year. And so the issue that I had with this one, first of all, it was boring. It's been a while since I've listened to an audiobook and I'm like, when the hell is this shit gonna be over? And like, it just dragged and dragged and dragged. And I'm like, I would have to rewind and listen to parts. I'm like, this is so dry. It wasn't keeping my attention. I didn't care about anything. I was like, where's the mystery? Where's the thrill of this? This is Inheritance Games. Where's the games part? Because what I felt was a lot of teenage angst, and which is fine because this is written for a teen audience. I don't have an issue with teenage angst, but I felt like we were missing the purpose of the book, which was these games, these riddles. Like he was leaving them these interesting notes and telling them like, hey, this is this, and you have to put this piece of the puzzle together. And so I'm like, I wanted more of that, but I felt like we were so hyper fixated on the possible romance between characters that I was like, like, you know, here's my thing about it. I think that there's nothing wrong with including romance in YA books, because that is definitely an age when people start exploring their romantic feelings. But I also know of a lot of teens who are not interested in romance. And I think that sometimes it is hard to pick out books for teens who are like, can I just have something that doesn't have romance in it because I'm not interested? That's actually going to make for a good discussion video. I don't see what all the hype is about this one. I know people absolutely love it. I know that people have been waiting for the third book, which just recently released. It just was a letdown, y'all. It was slow. The pacing of it also was off for me. Like, this book was incredibly slow, and I was thinking for something that has to do with like a game type element that we would be getting something beyond that, and we really didn't. We didn't get anything beyond that. We really just simply got a few puzzles here and there with relationship angst being the primary thing. I think the characters are interesting, but I don't know. I guess I wanted more thriller aspects, more mystery, more game solving than what we got. So that one honestly for me is a 2-star read, and I'm just not going to continue the series. I also ended up finishing Wakanda issue number 1, which is a new series that's starting that Stephanie Williams is doing, which focuses on Shuri after some events that have happened in the run that, who did this run? Oh, John Ridley's currently doing the current run of, yeah, he's doing the current run of Black Panther, I was about to say Wakanda. And so this kind of picks up a little bit off of that, which I don't think you necessarily need to read that in order to appreciate Wakanda, but it's really short, y'all. It's 30 pages. Like, there's not really much that I can talk about without spoiling because it's 30 pages. It's the single issue. That's why I hate talking about single issues, but I'm going to give that one 4 stars. That's pretty much all you need to know. I also ended up finishing Omega Morales and the Legend of Lechuza, which is the one that I said I didn't want to butcher the name of that one, but I'm gonna give that one 5 stars. It was so good, y'all. Middle grade series about a young girl by the name of Omega Morales who lives with her abuela, her mother, and her cousin, and it's just this huge like family dynamic, which I absolutely love, which a couple other reviewers have pointed out, like we get a family dynamic that we don't always see sometimes in youth related books, where it's like a severed family and it wasn't like that. Like the whole family was present and very supportive, and Omega hasn't necessarily come into her powers yet, but there is a ghost who has not crossed over yet, and she is very close friends with Omega and Omega's cousin, and they have been practicing magic for a long time. But there is this creature, this legend of Lechuza about possibly doing some harmful things to some animals around the neighborhood, so they try to figure out that legend and better understand it. And it is such a good juxtaposition of like grief and hatred and pain and love and passion, and how there's such a thin line between all of that stuff, and how quickly you can be flipped to one side or the other, especially when you go through a period of grieving, and the hatred and anger that you can feel when grieving, that pain, instead of pushing yourself towards love, and how that could be so detrimental in the end. And it had such a beautiful beautiful friendship between Omega and her cousin and the ghost, who I believe is, I can't remember the ghost's name, but it was adorable. I love that. I love the mysterious elements, the creepy elements of it. It was definitely well written. I cannot wait to read more from Kemp in terms of middle grade. I know that they've done YA stuff, but I'm looking forward to more middle grade stuff that they do. I also finished That Was Unexpected by Jesse Q. Satanto, which is the same author that I talked about earlier. Loved it. It was so cute. It's a 4-star read for me. It is about 2 characters, George, and I don't know why I can never remember her name, Char, because I think her name is Charlotte, but it's like Sharlot, and she's pissed because her mom named her that. But it is about those 2 characters. Like I said before, Charlotte is caught trying to have sex with her boyfriend. Her mother walks in, and George was caught masturbating by his dad. His dad walks in, and so basically Char's mom was like, oh, forget this, like we're not I just keep thinking about like we're not dealing both families like we're not dealing with this right now. And so Char's mother takes her to Indonesia for the summer so that she can better learn her roots and her heritage. And George's family, which his middle name is Clooney, which is funny, his family is determined to get him a girlfriend because his family has money. They work in this high profile company, and so they want to work on their image and him taking over the company and stuff like that. So Char's mother and George's dad both get on these dating apps, right? And they pretend to be their kids, and they're connecting with each other, and they're talking. And so they set the kids up, and the kids are so confused because they're reading the messages thinking like, okay, like Char was reading George's messages, not realizing it was actually George's dad. And she was like, oh, he's so misogynistic. And then, George was reading Char's messages, not realizing that it was her mother, and was like, oh my God, she's so pretentious. She's so stuck up. She's so traditional. And so they have to get to know each other, and they get caught up in the media. And they were like, oh, you're going to attend the event because this is, your boyfriend, and, y'all have been long distance. This is the first time that you really get to meet in person. And they were like, oh, you're going to do the event? She's like, yeah, I would love to attend the event here. And they're like, here. And then George was like, yeah, it's in Bali. So they end up having to go to Bali, and it just goes from there. I just thought it was the cutest thing, y'all. I really did enjoy this one. I don't know if the audiobook added to it, but I thought it was super well written and that the characters were fun. It really tackled in some very interesting issues like sex education and LGBT issues as it applies to living in Indonesia, what is considered acceptable, what is not considered acceptable, and the whole idea of like a girl determining if she's ready for sex or not is, you know, people slut shaming her and stuff like that. I thought it was just super well developed. I'm very, very excited for something else from this author. I don't know, like I know she has a lot, so now I want to go back and read her other stuff. It may be kind of hard to top this one because I really ended up enjoying this one. I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna give that one 4 out of 5 stars, so we'll see. And let me make sure now that I'm covering everything, because you know your child just I was sitting here mess up. Oh, I also ended up reading the Lost Library today by Jesse McGeechan. This one already came out in Australia. They're doing a re-release here in the US in November of this year, and I ended up reading that one for review. I gave it 4 stars. It's about 2 kids who find a book that says please return to the Lost Library. They end up going on this whirlwind adventure when they try to return it to their local library, and then they end up getting sucked into like this different world that's based off of literature, which I thought was pretty cool because it reminded me of the old movie from the 90s, The Page Master, with Macaulay Culkin in it. If you know, then you know. Absolutely adored that. So yeah, like I said, I gave that one 4 stars. I really like the art. I like the mix of the warm and cool colors together with the emphasis on purple. Probably because purple's my favorite color. That's probably why. And then I'm still reading They Never Tell by Shay Sanders. I'm hoping to read more of that tonight. I'm reading that through my Kindle, and I am listening to The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander. If you know me, then you know I love Kwame Alexander. I had the honor of interviewing him last year, and absolutely adored the fact that I got the chance to interview him last year. Oh gosh, it was such a great interview, just reminiscing about it. But I'm listening to The Door of No Return. It is a middle grade book written in verse that tackles the slave trade, chattel slavery, and it is sad. It is truly heartbreaking. I am having a tough time with this one because it is super emotional. I am 76% in. It deals with, actually, you know what, I'm gonna wait until I finish so I can better collect my thoughts about this one, because I think I'm gonna need a second to collect my thoughts. I only have 51 minutes of this one left, and I'm at 76%, which would put me on track, because I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna do an audiobook for the rest of the the month. And so I'm on track to be done with that one tonight so that I can start House of Hunger tomorrow. And then after that, I probably will start Man-Made Monsters. Then I'm Glad My Mom Died. And then I'm going to decide between Where We End and Begin or What We Saw I may do What We Saw by Mary Downing Hahn, because it's a thriller. It's a middle grade thriller. I also have When the Reckoning Comes. So that may be one that I listen to before the month is over with. But I'm pretty sure that is it, y'all. I don't have anything else to update y'all on. This is a pretty damn long update. That's just because I haven't been updating. But those are the 2 things that I'm going to read for the rest of the night. I am going to get up in the morning and do a workout in the morning. I was sore today, but I'm going to do a workout. I'm back on my workout shit. Been getting up at 6:30 in the morning so I can work out for at least half an hour. So I'm going to do that. And I also think, like, I don't know how much I'm able to get done this weekend, because how much reading is going to happen this weekend. Because one, I'm taking my child to a Halloween festival on Saturday with my parents. On Sunday, I am taking her to the fair for a few hours, and so my weekend is kind of jam-packed already. I don't know how this is going to go or how I'm going to make this work, but we're going to make it work as best as possible, which it is what it is. Actually, I lied, y'all. I do need to read 2 volumes of manga this evening. I think I'm going to read Catch These Hands. I think that's going to be one. That I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do Catch These Hands. And then I may do a volume that I checked out from the library. But I will let y'all know what my final decision is when I check in later. Doing a quick check-in because I haven't done a check-in in forever. So me and baby girl, we went to my LCS and it was free comic book day, so she ended up getting a couple of comics for herself, but I just wanted to show y'all what I ended up picking up, which I got Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City issue number 1. And then I did not know that I knew about the Gotham Knights Gilded City one. I did not know anything about this Harley Quinn 30th anniversary special, which is a 100-page one-shot kind of thing, which celebrates, I guess, 30 years of Harley. I'm not sure what this is, but I'm happy that I have it. And then I also ended up picking up 2 that I've already read, but 1 that I wanted to read because I think the 6th issue is coming out soon, and that's Poison Ivy issue number 1. I've been looking for that one, and my LCS did have it. And then 2 that I've recently read, Punchline issue number 1, and then also Namor issue number 1. So I actually need to go ahead and tell them to put those on my pull list because they are a pretty decent series. But I will, when we get back home, I'll end up doing a better check-in because I have some stuff that I need to review in this vlog that's going to go up tomorrow, which is always fun. But we're about to head to the grocery store really quick, and then yeah, I'll check in after that. So have I mentioned, oh, I hit the mic. Well, have I mentioned how this vlog has been like a complete hot mess? Because it's been a complete hot mess, and it's just because I've had a lot going on. Then on top of that, y'all, I filmed a update and apparently I deleted it. I'm stupid tired. I'm so tired. Okay, so we're gonna start from the top. Some things on here like I'm not gonna review because they're comics and graphic novels and manga, and I'm gonna save that for my other channel. But I don't think so. I did end up reading The Keeper by Tananarive Due. So at some point in this vlog, because I've edited up until this point, I mentioned that I've talked about this one, and I didn't. I did end up reading this one for Black Weenathon. I'm going to be reviewing this one on my other channel, so I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Not my favorite, but still a solid story. I did read Ice Cream Man Volume 1 by W. Maxwell Prince. This was a reread for me once again. Other channel, Chew Volume 1, Taster's Choice. Are we getting a pattern here? We're getting the thing. So I think I gave that one 4 stars. I also ended up, if it is over here, I ended up reading both A Silent Voice Volumes 1 and 2. I am hoping to finish this series by the end of November. I was supposed to finish it this month, but it just didn't end up happening the way that I thought it was going to happen. I did end up finishing Amari and the Night Brothers, but I'm not talking about that one here at all because that's a patron exclusive vlog that my patrons have been patiently waiting on while I finish Amari and the Great Game, which has had me in a chokehold for forever. I also ended up finishing, keeping with the manga here, I ended up finishing volumes 3 and 4 of If I Could Reach You. These both are very interesting. I cannot wait to talk about these on the comic channel because I have some thoughts about those. I haven't even marked volume 4 as currently reading in Goodreads, so there's that. And then I also ended up reading volumes, I think I read all of these, right? Yeah, I did. I read volumes 16, 17, and 18 of Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma, which those are all rereads for me. I ended up, of course, reading Little House on the Prairie. I did a full review on that one for the new series that I'm talking about, like, is this book problematic? So I will link that video up in the card symbol above. Another manga series that I ended up starting, and I'm on volume 2, is Real Account volume 1, which it's a very interesting concept if you like games, stuff like that. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the other comic stuff and manga stuff that I've read, so I can go ahead and get that out of the way, so because I'm not reviewing it. But I also ended up reading Alice in Borderland volume 1 and Chainsaw Man volume 1. If you're interested, on my other channel I did do a first impressions of those, so I will link those in the card symbol above. I also ended up reading Fear the Funhouse, which is like a spooky one-shot in the Archie universe. Wasn't really my favorite. Wasn't really digging it, but it is what it is. It's fine. It's whatever. I'm looking down because I'm trying to make sure that I get everything right here in terms of the comics. I also ended up reading Namor the Submariner volume 9, part 1, issue 1. Conquered Shores, got so used to saying volume 1. And then I finished Punchline issue 1, the Gotham game, which it was good. It was really, really good. I enjoyed that one. Can't wait to talk about that one either. I also read Lovesick issue number 1, which was not my favorite. Don't know if I'm going to continue that one at all. I read Smile by Raina Telgemeier, which was a reread for me, and I loved it just as much as the first time that I ended up reading that one. And I'm in the middle of some other comics and graphic novels, but we're not going to talk about that here. Now let's review the stuff that I need to review. Okay, so for Black Aweenathon, I did end up finishing more stuff for Black Aweenathon. 3 titles that I ended up finishing for Black Aweenathon since the last time I checked in. The first one is House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. This, for me, was not as good as The Year of the Witching. I enjoy The Year of the Witching much better. One thing that I've noticed about Alexis Henderson is that she is great at her writing. Her actual technical skills of writing is very good, but I think that sometimes she falters a little bit with her execution, and that's where her books usually kind of have a little bit of a misstep. And so I will say that this one did give me some body horror type issue vibes where, like, I literally was clenching my teeth in some parts. It focuses on this world where there are women who are considered blood maids, and they are given to these specific houses, these specific groups in which they serve as these individuals that provide blood for them. They are never explicitly called vampires in this book, but it is very vampiric. It is very sensual. It is very gothic, and the vibes of this were really, really great. We are following one specific character who has pretty much lived in the slums her entire life, and when she gets the opportunity to be a blood maiden, she's very hesitant at first. She's like, you know, I need the money because I need to be able to get my brother out of the situation. And she struggles with kind of making that final decision to become a blood mating specifically for the House of Hunger. She goes through with it, and what a lot of people have issue with is that she is very determined, she has a very keen sense of awareness when the book starts. She's very aware of the issues that she could be walking into by signing up to be a blood maiden for the House of Hunger. When she gets to the House of Hunger, it's all of her inhibitions just kind of drop, and I think that that is closely related to the idea of when you get into a position of acquiring power and wealth, your keen sense of what is right and what is wrong goes out the door when you have this desire and this hunger, literally this hunger to put yourself in a better position. And she was effectively competing against other blood maidens for that top position. And so instead of really tuning into her intuition as she did before, she kind of loses it. And she slowly starts to gain it back when pieces of the puzzle start going together. But it's a very interesting way of doing character development. And it's such a sharp and abrupt change that I think a lot of people had issue with it. And it made the pacing of the book really, really feel off. For me, I think that there was an issue with world building. We get this interesting kind of insight to what this world could be, where these houses are kind of at battle with each other, not technically at battle, but there is tension between houses, and there are alliances that are built between houses, and there is some possible, I guess, I don't know whether she was trying to touch into race at all, but it seemed like there was a little bit of that going on. But the issue that I had is that she does not stay consistent with that world building. Instead, we are contained within the House of Hunger, and for me, it made me feel extremely claustrophobic, which is the intent of the book, but I did not like that feeling at all. It literally made me feel like I was closed in a box, which once again is a testament to her skill as a writer, but oh gosh, it just made me, I was having a very physical reaction to it, and I did not like that at all. I think I just wanted a little bit more in terms of what this world actually was. I think I wanted a little bit more in terms of the length of this book. I almost felt like it was just a little too short for what happens, because things happen at such a, it feels like things are slow, and then all of a sudden things just happen at a really, really fast rate. But overall, I mean, the whole idea of wealth and position of power and the use of the body of women and how they have no say, really, honestly, and how they have to use their bodies in order to be able to make it out of the positions that they're in is very fascinating. I think that there is something to be said about the sensuality, the queerness of the book. It is very atmospheric, and once again, I think that Alexis Henderson does a wonderful job putting us in that atmosphere and giving us those vibes that we need, but the execution always is just a tad off. I think that I will always read Alexis Henderson, but I think that I am definitely putting The Year of the Witching at the top of my list for right now. The next one that I ended up finishing, which I talked about a little bit in this vlog, is They Never Tell by Shay Sanders, which is her dipping back into being a thriller and mystery writer. And I think for her first push of doing thriller and mystery, since she's been doing romance for so long right now, this was a solid book. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I don't think I said I gave Alexis Henderson's book 3.5 stars. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars and thought that it was solid. It focuses on these 12 kids whose parents have created this community around them. They are known as the 12, which is built off the concept of W.E.B. Du Bois as the, talented 10th. And so they are star athletes. They are extremely smart. They are all prepared to go to really high achieving institutions in terms of post-secondary schooling, but during the summer before they're all set to graduate, one of the 12 is killed. At first it is ruled as a suicide, but then the case is reopened and it's a homicide. I think that one of the things that this book suffers from the most is its pacing. It tries to tackle a lot of issues such as sexual assault, rape, grooming, and the idea of what it means to be Black and successful. And I think that it starts off kind of slow, and then at the end everything is too rushed, especially when it comes to the resolution of the story, when we figure out exactly what's happened. And I can't really go into that in depth because it really would spoil it, but I did like the messiness of the book. These characters are so morally gray, which I think people may struggle with, but it was something that I enjoyed. The characters are so morally gray to the point that anybody could have committed this murder. I mean, I was so convinced that somebody was there at the time of the murder and assisted with the murder because of how they were painted. And when it came down to it and I found out that they weren't the person, like they had nothing to do with it, I was very surprised. I mean, you don't really end up liking many people, to be honest with you, but this one definitely has a lot of content warnings for sexual assault, for grooming, for self-harm, suicidal ideation. It is a lot that's going on in this one. And I also did not give y'all the content warnings for House of Hunger. There are a lot of content warnings for that one as well. Both of these are pretty intense. The House of Hunger is death, bloodletting, blood horror, body horror, abuse, physical, mental, and emotional gaslighting, and attempted sexual assault. So please, with both of these books, walk into them knowing what the content warnings were. But I enjoyed the Never Tell. Like I said, I gave it 3.5 stars, and I'm really interested in seeing what Shay's going to do in the future with her interest in writing more thriller and mystery type of books. After that, I ended up finishing Nana by Brandon Massey, which everybody knows that Bree from Lock Petition has been talking about Nana so much, and I feel like everybody was reading Nana for Black Alina-thon. I was so intrigued. I read the reviews after I finished the book, and I was so intrigued by kind of like the polarizing thoughts on this one. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It literally is... It's hard to even explain this book and tell you what it's about because of the fact that it's so easy to spoil it. But we have a main character who ends up losing her grandmother, and at the funeral, her biological mother, who she has never met in her life, didn't get a chance to know because she's been told all her life that she abandoned her and that she didn't want to be involved in her life. So her mother magically pops back up and is like, hey, I want to be involved. I want to get to know you. I missed out on too much of your life, and now I want to get to know you. It's a very strange thing. One of the things that reviewers are constantly saying, which I understand, but I looked at it from a different lens, is that you as a reader know exactly what's going on, but the characters do not. So readers know, like, there's something not right about this woman. Like, she just popped up out of nowhere, and she does things that are like so off to the point where you're just like, yo, like, hey, this is wild. How can you not notice this? But I think the key to kind of working past a lot of that is understanding that our main character literally just lost the only mother that she's ever known. So she's not only dealing with grief, but she's also trying to reckon with abandonment. So she has this woman at the time of her grandmother passing willing to come forward and say, I am your mom, I want to build this relationship with you. And so now she's like, I've been desperate for this love and this relationship my whole life. I'm gonna overlook a lot of crap because I'm so desperate for this attention and love. And so that's why we as readers are very in tune with the fact that this woman is probably not who she says she is, but our main character doesn't know that because of the fact that she is willingly being blind to it because she's so desperate for that motherly affection and that motherly connection. And I know that it's very interesting because this woman's often described as a horny grandmother, and she is. But there's also, I think, intention and purpose behind that. It is very much so a commentary on desire and age, and how it's easy as someone who is younger to say, like, ew, people having sex in their 60s and 70s, that's disgusting, that's nasty. But you have to think, like, just because you get older, that desire to be wanted, to be loved, to be physically intimate with somebody doesn't go away. Like, it's there. You want to be beautiful. You remember those times in which you've been young. And so he intentionally creates scenarios where it is very jarring for us to hear this older woman who's supposed to be in her 60s talking about how much she likes to have sex. It's like, oh, but then it's intentional to make you think, like, why is that disgusting? Why are you feeling revolt, or why are you feeling revolted, or why are you feeling repulsed by the idea of an older person engaging in sexual activity? There are so many key like comments on grief and abandonment and desire and beauty in this that just work so perfectly well with the narrative as a whole that I can understand why Brie ended up loving this so much. But I think that if it's not always looked at through those lenses, it's easy to miss what Brandon Massey was attempting to do with this one. But I just appreciate it. Like, I loved it. I liked the writing. I liked this book. Had me thinking like, oh my God, it's so wild. It had me feeling like it was just a well-written, just well-designed book. Like, you know, I still think that we played a little too much into like our main character being naive for too long, so that it threw off the pacing a little bit, but it still was a solid 4-star read for me. The next book that I ended up reading was not for Black Readathon. I just wanted to read some romance, and that was Sensual Dimensions, Extraordinary Desires, #1 by Rianne Burnett. This is one of my erotic novella go-to authors. Anytime I want to read an erotic novella, I immediately go to her because she does a damn good job at it. This one focuses on a woman that works for this organization that is looking for or trying to pay close attention to alien activity, and it's told in the past and the present where she ends up meeting an alien and they smash. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, there is some other aspects to it of like this particular alien attempting to, he's a shapeshifter, so he's trying to bring his other community members through Earth to another planet because there's issues with their planet. But that's like as much as like the plot, quote unquote, is. Like, I don't read these for plot, okay? Like, honestly, I read them for the smut, because there are erotic novellas. Like, I'm not looking for an HEA, I'm not looking for an HFN, I'm just looking for a good time with some really weird sci-fi fantasy type elements. Like, the mermaid books are on point. I really enjoyed this one, so I'm excited to pick up the second one in the series. I think it's a 4-book series, but these are always really short, y'all. They're like 30 to 50 pages long. If you're looking for a good time, a good sexy time with, you know, black characters smashing aliens, listen, or just paranormal beings, this is for you, okay? This is for you. It's for me. It's a 4-star read. I also ended up finishing I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. Oh, this is such a complicated one. I am not, when I did my Goodreads review on this one, I specifically said, like, I'm not starring this one. And the reason why I made the decision not to give this a star rating is because I was not going to give it 5 stars. And I did not want people to feel like, for example, if I was going to rate this, I would give it 3. And I didn't want people to really get this misconception that I'm rating Jeanette's experience, because you can't put a rating on someone's life experience. This is Jeanette's truth. She's walking in her truth. She went through a horrible experience with an abusive parent. Her mother was trash, okay? I'm not criticizing that aspect of the narrative. The narrative itself was not good. Jeanette McCurdy is not a good writer, in my opinion. I don't think the book was cohesive. I don't think it was well written. I also think that this book is getting a lot of hype and a lot of push because Jeanette looks a certain way and because she's associated with certain organizations, mainly because it's giving tea on Nickelodeon, okay? I think that there are other celebrities who have put out better written memoirs than this one, and I can't help but to think that there are racial elements as well as, and she struggles very, Let's put it this way. She is white, she is thin, and she's conventionally beautiful. Her thinness, though, is definitely associated with the fact that she's still struggling with an eating disorder. I just think that those elements make a hell of a lot of difference. This is still Hollywood. Jeanette is not the first person to write about having to deal with an abusive parent and the crap shit show that Hollywood is. Like, she's not the first. Viola Davis grew up with a abusive parent. She had to deal with the shit show that is Hollywood. It is not new, and Jeanette McCurdy, unfortunately, her story is not the first, and it won't be the last. I think that people are treating her book as if it is a new phenomenon because it is her telling the story. And so I commend her and give her everything for even having the courage to be open about something like that, because it takes a lot to relive that trauma and put it pen to paper and let the world read it, you know, because there are people who are criticizing that experience. And that I don't think is fair. I think if you're criticizing this, then I feel like it is the work itself that should be criticized, not her personal journey. I think that it's very clinical, and that could also be her trying to distance herself from the trauma. I think that it was very jarring for it to be written from the perspective of her as a child instead of first person pat, like, what is it? What, you know, I'm not good with tenses, but instead of her writing it as if she's telling about what happened to her in the past, she wrote it as if it was a child telling the story, which is very jarring and it's very different when you're thinking about memoirs. So people were criticizing the legitimacy of what she was saying because she was writing it from the perspective of a child, which I don't think is fair. I don't like that. Like, I don't, it's like, well, how much of that can you really remember? You would be surprised. And so I have seen reviews like that, and I don't really care for that aspect of it. But I will say, using that as a writing style was jarring for me as a reader. I think that as you go along through the book, it becomes very cut and dry, which I think is accessible for people who are not nonfiction readers, but it did not read well for me as someone who does consume quite a bit of nonfiction as well as quite a bit of celebrity memoirs. So this is my fourth or fifth celebrity memoir that I have read this year. So, I needed Jeanette to kind of come with a bang in terms of the actual structure of the story, and I don't think it delivered. I don't think that the amount of accolades that this book is getting and the recognition that it's getting is because of how it's written, but because of who is telling the story. And there's much to be said about that. I mean, because of the success of this book, Jeanette McCurdy is getting a 6-figure deal to write a short story collection. And, I don't think, for me personally, I'm interested in checking it out, because I wonder if the writing style is going to change there. But it's amazing that, for me as a reviewer, I can look at it and be like, this is not the best writing in the world. But even with subpar writing, because of the monetary aspects that she brings to the table, she is guaranteed, she's guaranteed another opportunity to continue to make more money. And it's the way of publishing. This book is a way to really highlight how publishing functions and how the structure, the social aspects of communities function, and what is put on a pedestal and what is not put on a pedestal. And that's not taking anything away from Jeanette's experience, but it is a good way to really look at this book and the amount of publicity behind it. I mean, come on, too, with a catchy title, I'm glad my mom died. Of course, people are going to gravitate towards that. But I think that there are memoirs that have been better constructed than this one that don't get as much attention because of who's written them. So there's that. But yeah, I didn't write it on Goodreads. I just stayed away from that because I was like, I'm not gonna ask for that amount of trouble. So on top of that, I finished 2 more books, one of them for Black and Winterthon, one of them not for Black and Winterthon. The first one that I ended up finishing was Milk in My Coffee by Eric Jerome Dickey. This was good. I'd been meaning to read this one for a while, and I finally was able to get to it. This is, I think, his 3rd published novel, because I think I skipped over Friends and Lovers, but I just picked this one up. This I thought was going to be, I don't know what I thought this was going to be. It is about a Black man that enters an interracial relationship with a white woman. I like that Eric Jerome Dickey didn't do this at the expense of Black women, meaning that Black women were not torn down in order to put this white woman on a pedestal. I think that he made it clear that this main character was very much so invested and interested in Black women. He just happened to come across this white woman that he had a connection with, and he was very hesitant about it. He had his preconceived notions. He didn't want to tell his family. He didn't want to tell his friends about it, because he knew, this book, we're talking about, this book came out in the 90s. So, definitely you weren't seeing as many interracial relationships then as you're seeing now. And you see tidbits of that as this was published in the 90s. You see tidbits of that where you have characters who, will tell Jordan, who's our main character, tell Jordan, like, be careful now, that's a white woman, you know how they are, like, you need to be mindful, be careful, don't let her set you up, yada yada yada, the whole 9. Like, just very, very much so things that I think I would expect coming from the Black community during the 90s in terms of like being in an interracial relationship. Now, where this book kind of took a shift for me is that I did not expect it to get as heavy as it got. There definitely is like some deep, heavy content in this, and I don't remember the first book that I read by Eric Jerome Dickey. It's been so long since I read it, I can't remember if it explored as many like deep themes as this one did. This looked at like drug abuse and familial like relationships and structure. It looked at emotional abuse. It looked at identity. There is definitely content warning for like death on this one, for PTSD, for addiction. I was very shocked about like the layers of this one. I think that it is a slow burn type of book. I wouldn't even say like, I don't know if I would even call this like a romance, but it felt like it because our 2 main characters do get an HFN. Like they do get their happy for now. They make the situation work, but there's just so much complexity to this book, and I think it held up okay for, the fact that this book, I can't remember when this book was published. I think this was like, oh gosh, y'all, I feel like this was published in like the late 90s, definitely the late 90s. And so I think for being published in the late 90s, it held up pretty well. It just makes me excited to read more stuff by Eric Jerome Dickey. Unfortunately, he has passed away in 2021. He passed away very unexpectedly. I think it kind of like rocked the Black community, and I had made plans to read a lot of his stuff because I read the first book of his first published book, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna like his stuff. And so it's just unfortunate that what I have is what I have now. Like, I won't be getting anything else from him, but it was great. The only thing that I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more of is Kimberly's perspective. I think we got so much of Jordan's perspective that it wasn't evenly balanced out with Kimberly's perspective, and I felt like we got to know Jordan more than we did Kimberly. And Kimberly's perspective was introduced for a very wild situation, which kind of threw me off. Like, I did an update on Goodreads. I was like, I did not fucking expect that. Like, it caught me out of left field. I was like, I was not expecting that. So I think that it would have been a more balanced book if maybe every other chapter we were getting different perspectives, but we got like maybe 6 to 8 of Kimberly's perspective compared to Jordan's. And there are like 34 chapters in this book, so not a lot from her perspective. I just wanted to know a little bit more about Kimberly, like internally, as opposed to what we were getting from Jordan's perspective. But definitely makes me super excited to pick up more by Eric Jerome Dickey. Man, it's just super unfortunate, y'all. It's just super unfortunate that we won't be getting any more. But I also ended up finishing Hoodoo by Ronald L. Smith. This is another book that I wanted to read and finish for Black Halloween-a-thon. I have one more book that I'm going to try to read for Black Halloween-a-thon, and that is The Dark 30. And that one's really, really short. I think I can read that in between tomorrow and possibly Monday. Maybe pick up a little bit of it tonight. But Hoodoo is one that I have been meaning to read for a long time. It is a Coretta Scott King award-winning novel. This is Ronald L. Smith's first book. He is a Black middle grade children's horror writer, and Hoodoo just sounded really, really interesting. It is about a boy named Hoodoo who lives with his grandmother. This is both his mother and his father had passed away, and there are some really spooky things that start happening around Hoodoo. His family does practice Hoodoo, and he is supposed to have some magical abilities, but he just can't make it work. And then there's this dark entity that starts making an appearance, saying that he needs Hoodoo to pay for something that someone else has done. And so Hoodoo is trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what are you talking about? And he realizes that it's a journey that he must go on to kind of protect his family, while also kind of having faith in not only his religion, but also having faith in his ability to practice Hoodoo. And so there are a lot of interesting, like, Southern, like, just terminology and, like, information about Hoodoo that I really liked. There's one thing about this writing style that I did not like, and it's been pointed out by readers before me, is that Hoodoo, whenever he talks about something, he'll be like, you know, corn cakes are da 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 da, if you didn't know. So it's that phrase, like, if you didn't know, and it takes the reader out of the story, and it's very jarring. And it would have been okay if it was used just a couple of times, but Smith has a tendency to use it a lot with Hoodoo, and so it throws you off as a reader. It takes you out of the story. It's not fun. It's very noticeable to the point that it gets kind of frustrating when Hoodoo does that. So I did not like that writing element that he used there. And then also, I think the story wrapped up just a little too neatly in the amount of pages that we got. I think that this could have afforded to be just a tad bit longer, so that we could have gotten a more well-developed ending. It felt a little bit on the rush side, but overall, I think, you know, it's a 3.5 star read. I think middle grade readers will love this if they haven't already read it. It is spooky. It is one that I have even said I will not listen to this bad boy in audio. Like, I won't. It'll scare the shit out of me. I will not listen to this one in audio. It's just not finna happen. I'm not. Nope. Not gonna do it. I'm gonna stick. I'm glad I read it physically. I mean, it was a decent read, y'all. I like Hoodoo as a character. Watching him develop as being this person who's just not confident in his practice of Hoodoo, who is very insecure in himself. He's dealing with a lot because he's already lost his mother and his father, and seeing him become the stronger character, more confident character by the end of the book, more secure in who he is and his identity, it definitely pays off. But it definitely explores some darker themes, some darker elements, so be mindful of that. Okay, so I almost forgot this one. Can't believe I almost forgot this one. But I ended up reading To the Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander, which, oh my gosh, y'all, this book is so... this book is hard. It's a hard book to really talk about. I mean, it's a 5-star book. It is a 5-star book. It focuses on Kofi. Takes place, which would be the Asante Kingdom, and it is, I want to make sure I get these names right. It is a festival that happens in Upper and Lower Kwanta, and Kofi loves to swim, y'all. He talks about swimming so much. And he's living his life like a typical 11-year-old kid would do. And so his brother decides to participate, or he gets called to participate in the wrestling challenge, and things literally go left from there. And I mean left in major ways. This is a look at chattel slavery and just the innocence of a child being stolen away, and it's the reality of what happened. And I think that it's a narrative that a lot of kids are going to appreciate, in the sense that they're going to be the same age. And so to imagine what, this is not just some fictionalized, this particular story, yes, is a fictionalized account of real life events. And so for another 11-year-old to read what, this 11-year-old probably went through, I think is an eye-opening experience. This, for me, is a powerful book because a lot of politicians now, a lot of people in this country want to stop kids from learning about slavery, want to stop kids from learning about the history of the United States, because it's supposedly critical race theory, and it's making white kids feel guilty. This is not about guilt. This is about understanding someone else's experience and how this country has committed so many great ills. And yes, we continue to move forward. Yes, we continue to move forward into the future, but you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've come from. And for me, I think that when you stop kids from learning about where they've come from, where this country has come from, they can't build a better future. They can't build a better community where they are able to be accepting of someone else's differences, or just not even caring about someone else's differences. You can't do that until you can appreciate where people have come from, where the history of this country has come from. You have to be able to appreciate that to move towards a future where our differences don't make it's not a thing. But you can't just forget that and then be like, oh, well, I'm colorblind, I don't see anything, and you're just trying to make white kids feel guilty. They have to understand this. And it's not because we want to make you feel guilty for what your ancestors have done. It's, you need to know so you can appreciate the experiences of another human. It's books like these that paint that picture, that give kids, whether they are black or not, insight to what was going on to kids their age back then, and how it still informs what kids go through today. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a guilt associated to it. It's not you're a bad person, because these kids are not bad. First of all, their parents are teaching them things that they shouldn't be teaching them in terms of being nasty to people. But these kids are not born this way. These kids are not born with hate in their heart. And I don't think any adult is going in assuming that these kids have hate in their heart. But you can be taught hate. And so books like these, in my opinion, they just break barriers. And just to see Kofi go from having family and friends and having these passions, these ambitions, and caring, and having to see what the hell he saw. And I get emotional about it because I think about, like, he had a mother and a father, and I can't imagine how many families were just torn apart. And as a mother, the idea of me never being able to see my child again because someone felt it was their right to take my child from me and sell my child, and then watching my child, or not realizing that I would never see my child again, and then my child would just get traumatized and traumatized and traumatized and trauma, because Kofi it's just trauma after trauma after trauma. The death, the gore, the violence that he sees at 11. You strip kids of their innocence. You strip kids of anything that makes them a kid. And for people to want to just forget that because it's like, well, you're making me feel guilty. It's like, I feel like it says a lot about them more so than those who just want to teach history for what it is and not what people want it to be. And every time I read a fucking comic book, I end up crying. Every time I read a Kwame book, I end up crying, and this is just no different. Oh gosh, it was so well written, y'all. It was so well written. It was so good. So definitely pick it up. 5 out of 5 stars. All the stars in the world. Okay, I have a quick book haul for y'all before I end this vlog, because this is an disgustingly long vlog. It is what it is. But yeah, so I did end up getting these. I talked about these already. Ended up getting these issues from my LCS today. I talked about those, so I won't re-show you that stuff. I did end up getting a copy of Beyond That the Sea by Laura Spence Ash. This comes out in March of 2023. This takes place during World War II. This came from Celadon Books. They always send me stuff unsolicited. I never know when Celadon is going to send me something, because they never email me. They just send me stuff. And a lot of times it's not stuff that I'm always looking forward to reading. I did get some stuff from Holiday House, and they sent me a copy of My Mechanical Romance, which I'm looking forward to reading. This is a slow burn romance and deals with women in STEM, which I always like a good woman in science type of book. Holiday House also sent me Aces Wild, which I know is a queer, I think it is a queer like heist story. It features a group of asexual teens, which I haven't really heard many people talking about this one yet. I mean, and that's just library world as well as in booktube world. I haven't heard too many people talking about this one. This is another one that I was looking forward to. I selected a copy of this for my library, but I did not get a chance to read it yet. This is Boys I Know by Anna Gracia. Maybe Gracia. Anna Gracia. I'm gonna go with that. This focuses on a Taiwanese girl who is trying to figure out the lines between sex and love. So I'm hoping that this one is an extremely sex positive book. I can't see it not being sex positive. I think that YA is trying to do a lot with sex positive books. I got, who are these from? I believe that these are from Macmillan. Yeah, these are from Macmillan. So Macmillan sent me 2 things as well. They sent me Stein Tinglers, which is a collection of stories by R.L. Stein, which I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one is probably good. The cover of this one is wild. And then they also sent me a copy of the book Lord of the Fly Fest by Goldie Moldovisky. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm tearing their name up. This one, I believe, is kind of a retelling of Lord of the Flies, probably, but it takes place at a musical festival on a Caribbean island. And goodness gracious, the cover of this one is just... Oh, it's Moldovsky. I don't know why I couldn't get their last name. I just looked at it and clicked Goldie Moldovsky. So yeah, this one is, yeah, this cover is wild. It's a gorgeous cover. I absolutely adore the cover. And then this I got myself because I've been waiting for this for forever. I was waiting for this to go back and print, and it took forever to go back and print. These are getting printed on some very interesting paper. This is not the typical manga paper that I'm used to. This paper is thicker. It feels different. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that, but I got volume 2 of My Androgynous Boyfriend. I have been waiting on this. This has been out of print for a very, very long time, and so I'm looking forward to reading that one. I'm glad that some of this stuff is finally coming back into print. So Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany went to New York Comic Con and DM'd me while she was there because she happened across Stephanie Williams' table. And so she sent me a picture of something and asked me if I wanted it because these were getting signed and sold. And it is Nubia, Queen of the Amazons. This. But it is signed by Stephanie Williams. I will never open this. I will never, ever, 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 ever open this. Ever, 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 ever. This is a first issue variant with Stephanie Williams' signature on it. I am fucking fangirling so bad. I am fucking fangirling because y'all, okay, I'm not gonna, because I will sit here for 5 minutes and talk about that. I'm not gonna do that. The last thing that I have here is a gift, and this came from Jenny who said, because you got me into sips by, thought you might like a chai. This is so amazing. I knew this was coming. I didn't know when exactly I was going to get it because I get everything sent to a box, but Jenny sent me a Chai 5 organic chai herbal tea, which it smells so good. Oh my god, it smells so good. And then Jenny sent me a copy of Nubia and the Amazons. I am in heaven. I'm so, between the two of these, I'm in heaven. And so I'm about to get on Instagram and talk about how much I'm in heaven, because I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. But anyway, I'm in heaven. All right, y'all. That is it. That's all I have for y'all for this month. I'm not doing a month-long vlog. I was like, oh, I'll do a month-long vlog. Fuck that. It's too much. It's way too much. I can't do a month-long vlog. This is ridiculous. This vlog is over an hour long. It's like, no, that's too much. So I will be starting a new vlog tomorrow, and I will, you know, check in with y'all as always. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. If you're interested in supporting this channel or follow me on social media, all the links will be down in the description box below, and I'll be back with another video soon. Toodle!